This is Reverse Engineered.
Hi everyone, my name is Jon Penland, and Reverse Engineered is brought to you by Kinsta, a premium managed hosting provider. In today's episode, I'm speaking with John Doherty, founder and CEO of Credo and EditorNinja. John, welcome to Reverse Engineered.
Thanks for having me, John. It's always good to talk to another John on these things.
Well, thanks for being here. And as we get started, can you introduce yourself to our listeners?
Yeah, for sure. So as you said, I'm John Doherty, founder and CEO of Credo and newly EditorNinja as well. So Credo is the main business. And basically what we do is we help companies find and hire the right digital marketing agency. So we've been around, started the company 8 years ago out of my old apartment in Brooklyn. I no longer live in Brooklyn. I'm in Denver now. Did a stop in San Francisco for about 3 years. And I've been working on the business full time we're recording this in July 2021. So in September, it'll be 6 years that I've been working on the company, basically full time. Bootstrapped, team of about 7, mostly based in Denver. And we've about doubled in the last year during the pandemic. So, we finally hit a growth trajectory. So I'm excited to talk about the lessons learned and, and all of that, how we do what we do and how Kinsta's helped us do that as well.
Awesome. So as you mentioned, you're involved in a couple of different projects. So there's Credo and there's also EditorNinja. Anytime I see somebody involved in multiple projects, I'm always curious how they manage those kind of dueling commitments. Because for myself, I've always struggled with that. And I've actually really focused down on just Kinsta because I struggled to manage having multiple things going at the same time. So I'm curious, how do you manage being involved in multiple projects and making sure you're moving forward on both of them?
Yeah, good question. And those also aren't the only ones that I have. I have other websites, affiliate sites. I have singlegear.com, which is like an outdoors industry gear review site and, affiliate site. There's a WooCommerce instance that automatically imports gear that's on sale. So, kind of an SEO driven business. Plus I'm a husband, I'm a dad. I have a dog. We were talking offline that I live in Denver because of the outdoors life, mountain biker, skier, fly fisher, et cetera. So, there's a lot of stuff going on. And also let me say that EditorNinja is still in the early days. We're building the MVP, getting initial interest, right? I've had a number of people, that are interested and are basically let me know when you launch because we want to do it. So I'm kind of doing with that. That's my evenings and weekends project right now. Credo takes up my days. Though I basically haven't worked a full Friday in about 2 years. So, very much tried to build a sane, profitable, growing business. Did it all by myself for about the first 3.5 years, got us to about 300K in revenue. And then ended up meeting my now business partner and CTO. He's also my business partner on EditorNinja. We have kind of a parent company that we're starting services like that under. So he's my 50-50 partner in that. He's also a minority partner in Credo. But basically, how do I manage it? So Credo is my main thing. It pays the bills, it pays the team, et cetera. It's what I'm best known for at this point. And so I work on that, during the day, Monday through Thursday for sure. Some Friday mornings. Otherwise, some Fridays I'll work on EditorNinja as well. But basically my focus is still Credo. And then but the way I think about it, John, and I actually did this when I was rolling out Credo 6 years ago now, right? I funded the business by doing my own SEO consulting, my own growth SEO digital consulting, right? And basically the way I thought about that was I need to pay myself, right? I got laid off from my last job. We live in San Francisco, 6-figure tech job, got laid off from my job and had 3 months of runway from severance and was like, okay, but within 3 months, I need to be able to support my half of our bills in San Francisco, right? One of the most expensive cities in the US. This was 2015. It got way more expensive after that, but I need to pay my half. So basically I picked up a bunch of consulting. I padded my runway. I got myself about 9 months worth of runway. So by March, 6 months later, I had 9 months of runway in the bank. I was like, I'm going to stop consulting for 3 months to be able to build the first version of Credo. So I did that, right? Started that going, but then it wasn't fully paying me, right? Wasn't paying me what I needed to get paid. So I basically did about 50-50. So I was like half on Credo, half consulting. And basically as Credo grew, I cut back the consulting. Okay. And once Credo got to the point where it could support me, I stopped consulting. So I haven't consulted in a retained ongoing kind of what you think about traditional SEO consulting manner since end of 2018. So it's been about 3 years now. I still do some occasional clarity calls and that sort of stuff, but yeah. So basically that's how I think about kind of rolling out, new projects. It's as it proves to me that it's going to work, I put more time into it. I put enough time into it to get it to the point where it can prove to me that it's going to work. And then as it proves to me that it's going to work, then I can justify putting more time into it. And I'm also with Credo working to hire myself out of a job to eventually, right now, I'm CEO, but like that's 20% of my time, right? I'm still the head of marketing. I'm the head of pro success. I'm the head of sales, right? So eventually I'll hire those roles. So then I'm truly the CEO. I'm driving the vision. I'm driving the business strategy, that sort of stuff, Monday catch-ups with the team, that kind of thing. But each area of the business is owned by somebody else. So then I can focus on doing other things. I'm best about 5K to 25K in revenue. That's my sweet spot. Credo, we're almost double the top end of that. So like I'm growing into that. I am enjoying it right now, but I really love the get something to about 5K and then kind of grow the team, et cetera.
Yeah. And I do want to ask, something you said early on there is that you have been focused on building a business that is sane and profitable, right?
Yep.
And that's been a part of what's allowed you to have another project that you're working on, like EditorNinja. And I feel like I'm hearing in your answer that you actually did something similar, even as you were transitioning from consulting into Credo, where you're like, let's apply this sane and profitable paradigm to the consulting I'm doing. As it allows me the space, I'm going to work on this other thing.
Right.
Is that something that you have always maintained as a goal? Like, whatever I'm doing professionally, sane and profitable is going to be kind of like a guiding priority? Or is that something you learned over time because things got out of whack?
It's definitely something that I've learned over time. Things did get out of whack for a while. I was working a ton. Churn was out of control. So I've learned it over time. Honestly, I hired a couple of coaches. I have two business coaches that have helped me out a ton. And so I've really learned, honestly, John, until like 3 years ago, I didn't even know how to manage a P&L, And I've been running my own business for 3 years at that point. It was just like, well, I'm doing it myself. It's making enough money that I can still pay myself, right? So and there's money in the bank. Okay, great. But once you have people and you have to think about investing into things, right? Once you get to a certain point, you've kind of grabbed all the low-hanging fruit, the early adopters, et cetera. And then you need to figure out, how do we operationalize this stuff? How do we scale it? How do we reach new markets? That kind of thing. And when you do that, you have to manage budgets, and you have to give budgets. You have to make, you have to have the cash to invest into it. And then you have to invest into it. And you have to say, okay, I think that this is the missing piece. And so I'm going to carve out, let's say, 5K a month for the next 3 months. So 15K. And that is what is going to get us to, and we're going to know after that, then we're going to look at the results, right? We're going to adjust as we go. And then if if it works, we're going to keep investing in it because it's making us money. But if it doesn't work, we're going to cut it out, right? So I've really had to learn to do that. So I actually have a spreadsheet that I manage my whole business through. We have QuickBooks. I have a bookkeeper, accountant, that kind of thing. But I have a spreadsheet that I basically manage the whole company through and say, like, if we're hitting our profit target, which is 15%, then we're good. So I can project that out, and then every month I go back through and say, okay, how much did we actually make? What was our revenue? What were our expenses? What did we make? What percentage profitable were we? So how much did we add to the coffers, right? And I kind of manage the business that way. So I'm going to manage EditorNinja the same way. I did not manage my own consulting that way because it was a means to an end. Bootstrapping the company.
Yeah. I'm going to ask a follow-up question. Something that you said early on there is that you, as a CEO, you're trying to hire yourself out of a job. You said what you do right now as CEO is like 20%, and then you've got all this other stuff that you do. What I've observed is that if you are a manager in a growing company, it doesn't matter if you're the CEO or not. If you're a manager in a growing company, that's a skill that you have to develop, is the ability to see these responsibilities blossoming or just increasing in scope as the company grows, and figuring out how to work through that. And I'm just curious if you have any strategies or what your approach has been to trying to hire yourself out of these different parts of your job. Like how do you say, this is something I'm going to hand over next? And then how do you successfully hand that over?
Yeah. So I've done it well and I've done it badly throughout the history of Credo. So basically the way that I do it now is, so we are all about playbooks here at Credo. So if someone is doing something, we have a Google Doc created about that this is how it works. It's company documentation is what it is. And along with that, something that I've realized is, as you kind of go through building a business, right? Like this is my first business that I've really built. And with each new layer of growth, new things are required. And so, we realized that we thought about success just overall as like client side, like buyer side and agency side. We realized 9-ish months ago that that's 2 jobs. So I have someone on the client side, but no one was really owning like the day-to-day, like agency and basically account management for the agency side. And those are our customers. That's who pays us mostly. And so I was like, about 2 months ago, I was like, we were having some churn issues, some like customer issues. And I was like, this is preventable. Why is no one owning this? I was like, wait, because I have not delegated it to anybody. And why am I delegated to anybody? Because I don't know what's actually required. So I stepped into that role. I said, and I told the team, okay, I am now owning Pro Success. This is what I'm going to do. So I've been kind of establishing that playbook over the last couple of months. And that's probably the next role that we're going to hire. So I think part of your question, though, was how do you determine who to hire? I actually did draw out like what does an ideal like org structure look like, right? What are the individual roles? So, and it's no different from any other business. There's sales. That within that there's SDRs, there's AEs, right? There's marketing, so lead generation, and it could be on both sides. So mainly we just do it on the buyer side. There's finance, there's ops, there's development, there's product, all that stuff, right? And so basically I drew that out and said, okay, what am I still owning? Like I still own the things because we're still a small team. I still own the things that we don't have someone dedicated for. And then what I do is basically say, what do I enjoy? What do I hate? Right. And kind of the like zone of genius, zone of competence, like whatever those 4 layers are. And so the very bottom ones is like, they have to be done. Right. But I hate them. Right. So that's who I hire first. Playbook it, hire them. And then I kind of just knock it down like that. And also what I do, John, is something that I implemented about 3 years ago is I do a time audit every quarter. It's been about 6 months now. So I actually need to go back and do it. But basically I do a time audit where I look back at a couple weeks. And I go through and I live and die by my calendar, as I think anyone that like is going to get anything done should live and die by my calendar. And I go back through and I have a day in a spreadsheet. I have days Monday through Friday. What did I spend my time on in 30-minute increments? And then I can go through and assign that to this was product, this was marketing, this was sales, this was management, whatever that is. And then I literally spin up a pie chart and say, what did I spend my time on? What's taking my time? And the ones that are taking up the most, right? It's like, all right, this is a full-time job for somebody. I'm spending 25% of my time on it, which is a lot, but it needs 100% of someone's time. So how do we basically tie that back to business success? So how do we tie that back ultimately to revenue? So is it decreasing churn? Is it increasing leads? Like, is it increasing velocity for sales calls? Whatever that is. And then basically, and then what are the knock-on effects of that going to be? So it starts knowing my numbers. What am I working on? What needs more time that I can't give it? And so then how do we tie that back to business success? And then basically say, these are the things they're going to do based off of the playbooks. And then we hire that role.
Yeah, no, I love it. I'm actually, I work in operations at Kinsta, and we're a team of 3, 4, 5 people in operations. And one of the things we're doing right now is I have tasked everyone to sit down and write down everything they can think of that they do and how much time they think they're spending on it. So that we can go through that same type of process, because one of the unique challenges in operations is operations tends to become the place where everything goes that doesn't have another home. And so there's just kind of a lot of a lot of oddball stuff. Like one of the things I realized I was still doing is whenever we had a client who wanted to pay by direct bank transfer, a lot of those clients want to call us first to have like a actual voice check. These are the billing details. It's a part of a payment process for a lot of enterprise type customers. And I was still doing that. And I'm sitting here going, I'm not finance, I'm not billing, I'm not anything. This is just something I'm doing because I've been here for almost, 5 years now.
Right.
Right. Like, this is crazy. We need to sit down and figure out what are those edge cases that we're still doing that really a long time ago probably should have been spun off somewhere else.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. So, but I love that category. What is it that I hate, but that has to get done? And that's where we're going to start. So I really love that idea.
I mean, it always starts with like, does this have to get done? Because I feel like a lot of us are doing a lot of busy work, and it's like, this doesn't actually matter. Like billing details, that matters, support,
Right.
that matters,
Right.
accounts payable, that all matters. Right. But there are some things that it's like, I'm doing this and I'm like, what? I can't think of one off the top of my head because I'm ruthless about getting these off, but I'm like, what, why are we doing that at all? Like, it's not necessary. Let's just stop. Right.
Yeah.
And it's amazing. Like 3.5 years ago, when I started doing this, I probably cut out 20-25% of my tasks.
Yeah.
Because they just didn't need to be done. Or we automated them with software, right? It's like, doesn't need to be done. Yes, no. Yes. Okay. Does it need to be done by a person? Yes, no. If yes, then who's owning that? If no, create software, right? So like we've just automated the heck out of our business, like email follow-ups and text follow-ups and, scheduling. Like we don't chase people, we don't like they submit a lead. Like we don't call them, right? Like they get SMS follow-ups, they get email follow-ups. Like we've automated all of that. We automate the follow-ups after they do calls with agencies. Like we automate all of that. So, my business could, if we weren't committed to building automations, we could probably have 12 people, but like we only need 6, 7, right? So we're quite profitable because the machines do all the work for us.
Yeah. I found that to be true at Kinsta as well. And I think it's a natural process because when you are a young company and bootstrapped like yourselves, what you have a lot of is time and not a lot of money and other resources or even necessarily expertise. And so early on, it's really easy to solve a problem in the short term by throwing time at it, right?
Yeah.
By just throwing effort at it, because you have effort. You don't have clients, right? You don't have to worry about support yet. You have the time you can throw at those problems.
Yeah.
But what becomes a huge danger is if you don't identify those things as the company grows and as the real business takes root, the real business making sales, marketing, support, as that stuff starts to grow in volume, if you're still consumed with the things that really should have been automated a long time ago. So I think it's a normal process.
Yeah. And I think that's where a lot of people get hung up as well. Cause they're like, well, I've always done it this way. So like, I'm just going to keep doing it that way. Right. And I was a web developer before I was a blogger, before I was a web developer, before I was a marketer, before I was an entrepreneur. So, but I have a bit of a technical background and I'm a systems thinker. So I can think through this stuff and it's like, okay, let's, how do we do this automatic? How do we do this manually? Right. So when I first started Credo, I was manually sending out the daily lead emails.
Yeah.
And then someone would reply and say, I'm interested. I would manually send the introduction. I would manually do the follow-ups, etc. We don't do any of that anymore, but I did it for a bit because, again, that got us to the first product, which is, more automated. And then we've kind of gone on a few iterations. We're probably V3, V4 of the product now. And all that stuff is automated, but like, and when I show my team, like, hey, I used to do this manually. They're like, are you kidding me? How did you have time to do anything? I just worked, I just did it and figured out the process. And then I automated it. Right. And tools like Zapier, ActiveCampaign, Calendly, those are amazing, like we don't, like, for example, John, one thing that a lot of people do, that a lot of agencies do, a lot of even software businesses do, is they have a contact form, right? Like inquire, schedule a demo, something like that. And then it goes to thanks, we'll be in touch. What are you doing? Like that page right there should be an embedded Calendly calendar that someone can just book on. And if you're getting unqualified people booking, too many unqualified people booking, you need to adjust your form to have what my coach Dan Martell calls a funnel filter, where you can basically qualify them in and out, right? Like you look at our form on Credo and we require you to tell us what your monthly marketing budget is. And if you're under $2,500 a month, there's no option for you, right? Because we don't want to speak to you because you're not qualified for that level, right? We have another one that shows up in pop-ups around. If you're under 2,500, you can submit it there. Right. And that's great. And agencies will reach out, but to be matched up with top agencies, you have to have at least 2,500 a month in marketing budget. And if you're doing paid ads, you need to have at least 5K, know? So we qualify out the ones that are not based in US, Canada, or UK. And we qualify out anyone that has under $2,500 a month in marketing budget. Because they're just not a fit, So you need to be willing to say these people are not a fit, put in a funnel filter on your form and then drop them to that calendar so they can book automatically. And if they don't book, you need to have those automations in place, right? Because otherwise, if you, I saw something, John, that if you don't have a way for them to book easily, after they submit a lead, you're losing 50% off the bat right there.
Yeah.
We get 75% of people submitting leads to schedule calls, right? And we don't spend any time. And I have automations that save another 5%. So
Yeah.
like, I would handily rather do that, you know?
Yeah, for sure. I'm curious, something that you said a few minutes ago is that you live by your calendar and you think that anybody who's going to get anything done should. So what do you mean when
Oh
you say
yeah.
live by your calendar? What does that mean for you?
So if I showed you my calendar today, you would see that I basically have, what is that? I have an hour and a half over the next couple of days. I have an hour. I have like 4 hours over the next couple of days open.
Hmm.
I have breaks scheduled in, right? Like after this podcast recording, I have a 30-minute break to go get lunch, etc. Then I have a phone call, then I have a phone call, then I have a phone call, and then I'm free. I try to keep after about 2:30 in the afternoon open, unless it's someone internal, someone on my team that needs a call. I don't do calls after 2:00 or 2:30. I don't do calls on Fridays. I've just like I don't do external calls before noon on Mondays. I never do calls after 4 p.m. I basically just said like this is when I can talk to people, right?
Mm.
And so I very closely guard that. I just think that like and I try to set aside time for deep work as well, where it's like okay, this amount of time. And I've been less good about this recently, just because we've like done some things, we've gotten busier. So I actually need to figure out how do I do this again. And kind of move things around. But I try to reserve, when I'm creating content or something like that, or like writing scripts for videos, whatever, I need a solid 3-4 hours just to get into it, because it takes me 15-20 minutes to get into it. I need to shut down my email, I need to shut down Slack, etc., and just go heads down. So it actually enables me to get all the things done. Like, I mean, dude, my calendar is packed. Like it's blue, orange, green, and red is what it is, like based off of what it is. And but like my calendar is busy. But it's also like purposefully busy because I've done the work to eliminate the things that I don't need to be doing. And so all the things that I'm doing, it's a lot of stuff, but it's all high leverage stuff, all high value stuff.
Yeah, I keep hearing buzzwords there that are bringing me back to Cal Newport. Is that somebody you're familiar with? Time block planning.
Yeah, Miracle Morning, right?
Well, he wrote like So Good They Can't Ignore You and Deep Work, and you said Deep Work, and that's immediately
I know Cal's name. I don't know him personally.
Yeah.
I've heard I've heard that he wrote the book. Yeah, Deep Work. I knew it came from somewhere. I didn't know it was him, but
Right.
but like I have those sorts of like frameworks and like ideas through which I work.
Yeah, it's a lot of the same ideas. Like the concept that is put forward in some of these books is what Cal refers to as time block planning, which is start your day and like block out like what are you going to work on all day.
Yep.
Block out your lunch.
Yep.
Block out time, and he does. You cannot underestimate the value of truly shutting down and focusing on the truly productive work. Like if you're trying to do that truly productive work, whether it's writing a blog post, anything that requires the full attention of your brain, and you're letting those Slack notifications ping in the background, and you're letting your phone go off, and you're checking your email every 15 minutes, you're slashing your productivity by just a tremendous margin. Like your ability to produce results has just completely tanked. So I actually agree with you more.
I didn't get it from Cal. I got it from Craig Ballantyne and his book, The Perfect Day Formula. So I went through a couple years ago and just like, and really thought like, what would a perfect day look like for me? Right. Because like my wife and I share pick up and drop off of our daughter, and I love to be outdoors. Right. So it's like perfect day, perfect week. And so for me, part of my perfect week is being able to say like, hey, it's winter and it is dumping in Breckenridge. And I want to ski. It's Thursday and I want to ski tomorrow. Clear my schedule. I'm going up to the cabin, right? Like that's my ideal life. That's my perfect week right there, right? Having that ability. So it's so I think something that I did not have before I started my company that I've really kind of latched onto in the last couple of years is like, why am I doing this? Right. I mean, when you're starting, it's like you just do whatever you have to do to survive, right? You're getting those first customers in the door. You're trying to deliver, right? Trying to get some revenue going. It's not self-sustaining yet. And then after a while you say, okay, this is going to survive. Great. Now, how do we grow it a bit? Right. And then you go to profit, and then you go to kind of like, then how do you scale? But as an entrepreneur, as a founder, I think employees should do this as well. Absolutely. But, just kind of like vision for like your career and that kind of thing. Even if it's just a couple of years out. But I'm like, ultimately, why am I doing this? Why am I going through all this pain and struggle to build Credo, to build the team, to level up as a leader, to level up as a founder and become a CEO, like that kind of thing, starting another company and having a parent company that we're going to build out multiple companies under that, right? Like, why am I doing that? Part of it's because I'm insane, because I'm type A, and I enjoy it. I really do. Like, I thrive off of high pressure situations. Like, when stuff gets crazy, that's when I'm like, I get focused and I just go. But at the end of the day, I'm like, why am I doing this? I'm doing it to be able to be free. Time freedom, calendar freedom, money freedom, right? And so like part of it is like, well, what can I actualize right now? I can't actualize the money freedom yet. Over time I can, and I have the plan. We have the plan for that. My wife and I do, but I can do the time freedom, right? I can just give myself some time freedom. I can't do anything, that I want to at any time yet. Well, actually, I kind of can, because I could just say like, you know what, just clear my schedule today. I'm not doing it. Like, I can just make that call, right?
Right.
But like, I would be leaving things, I would be like going back on some, responsibilities and whatever. But I can say, hey, I'm not working Fridays if I don't want to, right? So I can actualize some of that, and ultimately, I would love to have a couple days a week, right? I would love to do 4-day weekends every week, Mondays and Fridays. So you can kind of work towards that. But for me, it's like, okay, time freedom, money freedom, and like freedom to work on what I want to. You're never going to have all of those, perfectly, but it's something to work towards and say, like, how can I take some steps towards that right now?
Sure. I want to redirect a little bit. We've talked a lot about your personal story, your personal productivity process and how you think about business. I want to shift a little bit to focus in on Credo itself a little bit. So I want to start by asking you about Credo's business model, because I think it's somewhat unique. Like, Credo does not necessarily just have a single set of clients that they are working towards, right? So you have kind of two different types of clients or users that you have to think about. You have to think about the agencies that are using the platform. You have to think about the clients who are connecting with agencies.
Yep.
So how did this model come about? Let's start there. How did you come up with this model of being an intermediary between those two parties? Where'd that idea come from?
Ooh, a lot of to get to the model that we're currently running, which is working, it was just a lot of pain and sweat and hard work. But initially, so when I started the business, as I said in my intro, that I started the business out of my apartment in Brooklyn in 2013. And I started it because leading up to that, to the end of 2012, I was working for an agency based in New York City, and basically wanted to make some extra money on the side. My salary was paying my bills, whatever, right? I could have some fun, but I was like, I want some more, that I can do more things in New York, right? And so I picked up some side consulting gigs. And so I was doing that. And then basically I got to the end of 2012 and I had gotten a promotion. I had gotten a couple raises, and I was like, I was 20, as I like to say, I was 28, single, living in Brooklyn, spending 2 weekends a month in my apartment by myself, doing work for clients that I didn't like for money I didn't need. It's like, I'm done. I'm done with that. And so I stopped. I said I was going to stop doing that at the end of December of 2012. And my clients at the time said, well, who should we work with if you're not doing this anymore? I don't know. I'll find you someone. And then I had 3 friends in the space of about a month contact me because they had hired bad SEO agencies, mostly overseas, and lost a lot of their traffic. One of my friends lost 70% of his traffic and therefore 70% of his business. I was pissed. I emailed Matt Cutts. I don't think I ever got a reply from him. But Matt, if you're listening to this, which you probably aren't, it's all good. But so I was like, I can do a better job. Like, I can help people find good people. And so I built out a Google sheet and then just started sending leads to people, just kind of goodwill, right? Had them coming in. And then I was like, wait, there's money in lead gen. And so I asked my buddy Brandon at Wallaroo, hey man, I just got this lead. It's in your town, Provo, Utah. Would you be willing to pay $50 for it? 3 minutes later, he's like, what's your PayPal? So he sent me $50 PayPal. I sent him the intro. I made $50. He went and closed the client. I bought a domain name. And so basically that's just kind of where it started. Just kind of like people contacting me because I have a good name, have a good name. I don't know, in the SEO industry. It was known as an SEO, let's put it that way. So I had people contacting me, wanting to work with me. And I was like, you're not a good fit for me, or I'm not taking clients on right now. So let me refer you to good people. Would you want to be referred to someone that I trust? Yes, please. Great. And I could monetize it on the back end. So that's where it started, man. And honestly, we've been through a couple of different business models. First one was we got 10% of the project for the first 3 months when it closed with an agency. Terrible business model. Easy to sell to agencies. Terrible business model because you're building in 100% churn every 3 months. And also you're not controlling your revenue because you're not actually closing the deal. They're closing the deal. So you can really only send leads to people that can close, not necessarily people that are doing the best work. Then we went to a pure subscription model. number of leads, fully automated. So basically that first business model took us to about 4 or 5K a month in revenue. And then the revenue was trailing off as all the other metrics, traffic, leads, et cetera, were going up. Something's off here. So then we switched to the subscription model. That got us to about 18, 19K in revenue over the next 12 months, maybe. It was quick, it scaled up. But churn was out of control. It was super hard to run, et cetera. And so basically I started working with a coach, and then we upped our price, and we started working with some agencies dedicated. They were paying us a couple grand a month. And that took us up to the next level. And then we decided, we kind of took a detour into doing an escrow marketplace service. So built out a full marketplace. And in about a year, we got to the point, not even 7 months, we got to the point where I think the last month we ran it full is we processed 130,000 through it for agencies, and we got 15% of that. And then COVID hit, and we took a 20% revenue haircut overnight through no fault of our own. And we were still up. It was still up to the our revenue was still up to the agency's ability to sell and retain. And if they didn't retain and some arbitration needed to happen, we had to arbitrate that. And we didn't get paid for that. So I realized, I was I'm spending more time to make less money. That's dumb. What are we doing? And so basically once COVID hit, we're okay, what's the real value we're providing? Reached out to agencies and said, hey, is this proposal, escrow, deliverables part of the marketplace? Is that providing any value to you? And they're no. We knew clients hated it. And we're okay, what's the value? The leads. Okay, cool. So we adjusted our model to be a subscription model. We do get a commission on the back end when work closes, but it's not in perpetuity. But it's a decent, it's a decent chunk. And so basically, we're getting paid to generate the lead, and then we're getting paid when agencies succeed. So very much Richard Branson, protect the downside and have unlimited upside. So that's worked out very well. As I said, we've about doubled in the last year.
Yeah, that's interesting. So what I'm hearing is you had kind of multiple different models. You had this sort of commission-based model where it was a percentage. Then you had a subscription model. Then you went to an escrow model. Then you really kind of married the subscription and the commission model. Yeah. And I had seen you share that quote from Richard Branson on Twitter. And it was protect the downside with unlimited upside or something along those lines.
Yeah,
and I was
like that. Yeah, perfect.
I have no idea what that means. And now I'm oh, okay.
yeah.
I get it.
So it was how do we, really the thought was how do we get enough money in the front that we can actually invest in marketing, invest in team, invest in building out resources to help clients be more effective at hiring and all that kind of thing, which is just a knock on to the agencies. And then because we're doing that, how do we also get a share in that because we're helping them close more work, right? Yeah. In an automated sort of way, like I talked about. So yeah, it was actually, I had heard that, I heard that probably 2 months before we actually moved to this current model. Was that's brilliant. How do we do that at Credo? And it's worked. Yeah.
Something that we've kind of danced around a couple of times, and I'm just going to go straight at it with a question, is it strikes me in order for Credo to be successful, you have to care about satisfaction of clients as well as the health and profitability of agencies. As a business, what is Credo's North Star? Do you think about yourself as being focused on client satisfaction or being focused on the success of the agency?
Man, that's a great question. No one's ever asked me that before. I was gonna say our North Star is number of qualified leads coming in. You're getting in a lot deeper. So let me think about that. So I would say that what we're really focused on is we believe that if we can get the right agencies in that are good people, that deliver good work, that can sell, that kind of thing, then we're going to do the buyers coming in looking to find someone, they're going to be taken care of. Right. So we can do we do as much as we can to enable them to do a better job of hiring. We have a 5 questions to ask an agency before you hire kind of resource. We have a spreadsheet that we share with all of them that they can take and basically use to organize their hiring. Because, a lot of people are just that are hiring agencies just have it all in their inbox and where's this PDF and did that get shared on a call or has not been shared? We have to do a call to get it, blah, blah, blah. We just put it all in one spreadsheet, right? They can put it all in one spreadsheet and just organize it all right there. How big is the agency? What's their website? What are they proposing to us? What do they cost? What are our notes on them? That kind of thing, and use that to really organize their hiring. So we provide that sort of stuff to clients. And so we try to enable them as much as we can to do that. But at the end of the day, John, it comes down to how well are agencies closing, and then how well
Yeah.
are agencies retaining, and also how happy are clients. And that's just kind of a feedback loop, right? For them to come leave reviews on the agency that they hired. It's automated 90 days after we find out that they signed, move them into one column in active campaign, and 30 days later, hey, how's it going? Just checking in. 90 days later, hey, you've been working with them for 3 months. Are you continuing? Are you looking for anything else? And would you leave a review? But at the end of the day, it comes down to if agencies are succeeding, right? If they're closing work, if they're retaining work, et cetera, that means that clients are signing, and they're actually getting work done, and they're seeing results because they're retaining the agency.
Yeah.
So I guess as I talk it out, is the agency being successful?
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like it really is kind of the client's ability to retain their customer. That is what will drive your success. Like if the client,
exactly.
Yeah. If the
close
client
and retain.
Yeah, right. So if the client can close a customer and retain them, that implies that they're doing good work. That implies that they're being productive. That implies that it's taking care of all the other things. Now, of course, you have to deliver them leads to keep them happy, right? But if they're retaining. So I know that you guys have like a qualification metric for agencies that want to come to your platform. How do you try and make sure that an agency is going to be somebody that fits the bill as somebody that Credo can recommend?
Yeah. So we have a 3-step vetting process. Results, professionalism, culture are the 3 like kind of top end. There's like 28 bullet points total between the 3 of those. Basically, but at the top end, do they have proof, evidence of getting good results for clients? So show some case studies. We look at SEMrush. We look at whatever, all the tools that all the digital marketers use, to verify it. Professionalism, we look at their deliverables, right? Their reports, like, are they branded? Are they professional? Are they free of typos, et cetera? And then culture, are they good people, right? So we talk to them on the phone, like our pipeline, our top level, we work very closely with them, and I don't work with jerks.
Sure.
So we, we do a call with them. I do a call with them before we even get them on, right? Like and it's funny because like we're not cheap, right? Our minimum is $1,700 a month for an agency, and our top public level is $4,000, in commission on all of those. And so we're not cheap. And what I actually end up seeing, John, is agencies trying to convince us that they are good enough to pay us thousands of dollars a month. So it really like turns it on their head, which is interesting. I don't actually do sales. It's more like, are you qualified? And then we've kind of realized over time that like certain sizes of agencies and, they need to offer certain things and certain combinations of things and work with certain budgets and all that. And we're starting to actually work in like, I'm actually starting to take a look at their CRM ahead of time and be like, okay, how many leads you're getting? How many are you closing? What are they paying you, et cetera? Because if they can't close at least 50% of their inbound,
wow,
we're not going to be able to get them success, because we see about 20 to 22% of agencies close about 20 to 22% of leads that we send them. So about 1 in 5. If you're not closing at least half of the ones that are coming to you saying, we want to work with this agency, help us pay you, they're not going to be able to close from Credo, because we're introducing them to multiple people. It's kind of a warm intro, but it's not a like, we're making the recommendation and then the agency kind of has to sell them again, right? It's a very different like kind of level of lead. And so we're actually looking at that now as well, because we know if an agency can't close, even if we're sending them good leads, right? We don't bring on people that we don't already have those leads in, right? Basically, like if we have an excess, right? I'll sell people in, I'll sell them what I already have, and I'll use that revenue because we're already profitable to go and get more so I can bring in more agencies. That's how our cycle works. But if they can't close, they're churning out in 4 months' time, right? Because that's our minimum engagement length. And I don't like churn, right? I want people to see growth. I want them to close, right? And so we work very hard in our onboarding to get them a closed deal in the first 60 days. And we've gotten pretty good at it. We don't always hit it, but we've gotten pretty good at it. And if we can get them a closed deal in the first 60 days, they see that there's something here and they're going to stick around. They're going to ask how they get more. So then it comes down to training, sometimes adjusting of leads, helping them out with their sales process. I have a sales process that I know works really well. I've trained agencies on it, grown one agency from $600K a year to this year, they are projected to hit 4.2. So they've grown 7X in the last 3 years working with Credo, and we've made up about half of that. And I trained them on sales. And once I trained them on sales, their close rates and revenue took off. So we can crank for the right people. We just have to make sure that the right people ahead of time, selling the right things. They have a set sales process and they've proven that they can close.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the things you listed as a filter that really resonated with me is we don't want to work with jerks. Uh, and
Yeah.
actually, we found that to
That's
be
the
so
easy
true.
version.
Yeah, we found that to be so true at Kinsta that we actually put it in our terms. Like if you go into our terms now, one of the client expectations things, it's the first line is it says be decent, and it effectively says
Ooh.
don't jump in and insult our support engineers and swear at us and those types of things. Like we strive to provide a great experience, but that is a bit of a two-way street. Like there is a minimum degree of professionalism that we expect our clients to bring to the table as well. How's that played out
I
at Credo?
like that.
Is that something that came up? Has that always been a value at Credo?
Uh, so I wouldn't say it's actually a value, though. As you're talking about that, I think it's going to be. I've always just been of the mindset that like when someone like just because someone is paying you doesn't mean that you have to let them keep paying you, right?
Yeah.
So I will like I've fired. I can't even tell you how many agencies because they were jerks, right? I had one guy that was going in on me once, $200 a month, and he was struggling on an old model, and he was struggling to close, and he was just like passive aggressive and just a jerk,
Right.
man. And I was like, you know what? So you know what I did? I went into Stripe. I refunded his payment that had gone through 3 weeks before, and said, "I just refunded your payment, deactivated your account. I wish you luck." And he came back pissed off, and I was like, "I'm sorry.
Right.
I don't work with people like this." So we do look for that. And I actually think we need to do something like that on the buyer side. We don't have a ton of problems with it, but I think we actually need to set out like maybe on our How Credo Works page, just to like, well, here's what we expect of you. Like you're going to be open, right? Like you're going to tell us the truth. You're going to be open to like how we work. This is how we work. We just told you how we work. It's the point of this page. This is how we work. And you agree to work within that way. You agree to give us feedback on agencies. And basically these are the things that we require of you as well. This is what we'll do for you. This is what we require of you. We're actually doing that with agencies now as well. I was just yesterday, working on a doc that it's like for agencies, it's like, this is what we do. This is what we don't do. This is how we show up for you. This is how we need you to show up for us. And I'm actually going to go back and get all of our agencies to sign that. And then all new agencies coming are also going to have to sign that.
Yeah. It's extremely rare that we actually have to exercise that item in our terms, but it's there because we've had to, right? So I could probably count on my fingers the number of times that we've had to exercise that clause in our terms where we just said, look, it's just not working. And hosting business is a little bit different where, if we decide that somebody's not a good fit for Kinsta, it's not a good practice for us just to shut them down, right? Like we're taking their website offline. We're not going to do that, right? But we will reach out and say, hey, you have 2 weeks. Like you're just not a good fit for our platform. You have 2 weeks to migrate to a new provider because the internal culture of our team is worth more to us than any single customer. Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you a story, John. We had a guy come through, I don't know, a couple months ago that came to find out that they were trying to hire an agency for their customer and for their client. And their client there's a marketing consultant. Their client was paying them by the hour. And so, we match him up with 3 agencies. He agrees to do that, et cetera, et cetera. And so our process is like we qualify them, put their project in, create them an account, and then schedule them with the agencies, right? They don't approve who the agencies are because we're basically saying, trust us. This is how our matching works. We show them. And he's like, yep, great. I'll do the calls. We schedule him. He immediately goes and cancels all of them. And I'm like, what the heck? So I get involved and he's like, well, like they don't have case studies. And I'm like, he's like, they don't have case studies of working with lawyers. They all have case studies of working with lawyers, right? They're all on our lawyers, like marketing companies page. They all work with lawyers. He's like, well, but they don't work with lawyers. Well, they do. I proved that. Okay, but they don't have case studies. They all have case studies. Okay, but their case studies don't tell who the person is with the phone number to contact them. I was like, oh my gosh, like I don't know what to do with you. And so like, I'm like, you know what? And he replies that day with, I am no longer interested in Credo's services. Great, good luck. Next day, he comes back asking to be rescheduled with one of the agencies. I thought about it overnight, blah, blah, blah. I reply to him. And so he has a login to our system. He still has it today. And I'm like, thanks for the email. And I was a little bit of a jerk, but what I said was I used his exact wording. My team and I are no longer interested in working with you. If you want to, you can log in and schedule calls with them yourself. But based off of our conversation from yesterday, we are not going to put any time into your project. Thanks, John. He never scheduled a call as far as I know. I don't care. Right. But like, if I have to get involved like that and someone's being like that and they're not trusting us and they're not listening and they're not willing to pay us to help them manage them through the process, right? Thing is, John, he took probably 3 hours of his time, going back and forth with me over email. He would have spent half of that just having the freaking calls and would have found an agency, So like, I just don't know what to do with people like that.
Right.
So we just get them out of our way. We don't kick them off, right? We're like, you can log in, that's fine. But like, you're not getting other matches. And if you want to schedule, that's all on you.
Right. The one thing that has happened, having been on the business side of those types of, just call them challenging interactions, is I find myself when I'm dealing with a business, I am just far more aware of how I'm reacting. Right. I'm like, okay, John, bite your tongue. Right.
Yeah.
Like, I know you're frustrated with, service XYZ right now. Realize this is a human being on the other end. This is their job. You need to dial it back a bit here. Yeah. So it definitely raises the visibility once you've been on that side of the interaction.
Yeah. And I've learned that too. I used to go like in guns blazing, and I don't do that anymore. I'm very professional with it. And, it's also very, very few that need that, right? I mean, I'm talking 1 in 200 that are like that. So I deal with one of those about every, couple of months. But like, my qualification team, my success team deals with them a lot more, right? And they just qualify them out. But if it gets to me, something's gone wrong, and I deal with a couple of them, every 6 months, let's say. But yeah, it's very rare. And we do have to be as professional about it, and recognize that someone on the other end, maybe they're having a bad day, et cetera.
Right.
But, John, I've given people second chances that are like that, giving them second chances as well. Oh, I'll do better. They're better for a week, and then they come back and they're a pain in the butt. So I'm just like, you know what? We're done. There are other ways for you to do this. Like, so,
I hear you.
Good luck. I want to shift. Good luck.
So I want to shift gears a bit and ask you about some of your other projects. So let's start with EditorNinja. What's the backstory there? How did that project get started, and how does it work?
EditorNinja. So I've been a blogger since 2001, 20 years now, and something like that. And basically, I love to write. I'm a writer before I'm anything else, but I don't like to proofread. So I'll ship a blog post live, and usually the first comment I hear is, "This is great. You left this comment unfinished in the second paragraph," or "There was this typo," or whatever. You gotta be kidding me. So I'll go back in and fix it, but like, egg on my face, So I was like, I need someone else to do this, and so started getting some editors together. And then basically, there are other people that are interested in that, and we scaled up our content. I was like, I need kind of a formal place to do this. And I know the founder over at Design Pickle, and I was like, this is interesting, right? Because there are companies out there already, doing proofreading and such. But I was like, I wonder if the Design Pickle model could work for this. And so basically I launched a site and was like, hey, let's get some editors on board, and then start getting some people that need editing. So we're currently able to process individual docs, like, single docs. I'm working on building out the MVP product to actually do the subscription and all of that. Honestly, John, I'm doing it in the same way as I built out Credo, the initial product, Gravity Forms, Gravity View, on WordPress. So I'm doing it better this time. I'm actually doing like a dedicated like app, like subdomain, as opposed to like within the main www and whatever. So like I did learn a bunch of things, but basically it's like, I know the software to use, that kind of thing. And then it's a matter of marketing it and getting people in the door and doing some sales and learning what they need, their questions, who are best for that kind of thing, right? Like, EditorNinja isn't good if you need an email proofread and you need it back in an hour, right? But like, hey, you just did a white paper that you invested 10K in, and you want to get like the agency that produced that for you, or your content team should have proofread it, but you want to just make sure, because this is going to your prospects that might pay you $500,000 a year. We can turn that around in 2 days, so like, it's a good fit for that. So I've just learned that kind of thing through those calls. John, it's very, very reminiscent of the early days of Credo. Very, very reminiscent, like building the initial supply, building the initial product, building the initial demand. It's like, it's the same playbook. So my goal ultimately is like establish that playbook, because my business partner and I are very good at building two-sided productized services like this. So that's kind of our goal, to have a portfolio of those businesses. Yeah,
it's interesting. Before I was in my current role at Kinsta, I first became aware of Kinsta as a writer, because I was writing in the WordPress space, and Kinsta's always been big in content. And actually my first interaction with Kinsta was writing for their website. And
Cool.
I can not tell you how strongly it resonates with me that I love the writing and I hate the editing, right?
Oh
And
yeah.
and I'm actually good at it, but I don't enjoy it. And
Right.
I learned that because I went to work for a content agency as an editor, and I lasted
Mhm.
exactly 1 month before I was like,
I'm
guys,
out.
I cannot do this. Like I do not have the tolerance for the
Yep.
full-time editing. I need to be
Yep.
creating, not
Yep.
editing. And the whole idea of publishing something and then going back and reading it and finding, all these grammatical errors that I made that I should have
Mhm.
caught the first time around, and going, I don't want to spend any more time on this. My brain is done with this piece of content and it is ready to
Yeah.
move on to the next. So yeah,
So
absolutely.
I saw a tweet the other day from a guy, David Perel. I don't know him
Mm,
personally. I follow him on Twitter. And he's a writer. And his tweet, which is actually showing up in Google search results, so it's really useful. It was from 2 days ago. It said, editing your writing is like going to war with your emotions because you
yeah.
have to delete things that don't belong, even when it crushes you emotionally. The writing part is fun, man. I love it. But the editing part, I'm like, oh, this is painful. I don't want to do it. It's good enough. Someone will tell me, right? But at some point, it's not good enough if you haven't actually gone back and edited. So,
Right.
the
Yeah.
Editor Ninja will be for those people.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, you may have a user here eventually if I ever get back to using my blog
Love it.
regularly. So,
Love
yeah.
it.
I did want to ask you about one other project you have going. So, you're running a Substack now, Service Business Academy. I feel like Substack is something that's really just exploding over the last, I don't know, 6-12 months, something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
What prompted you to start your Substack, and what sort of results are you seeing out of that?
Yeah, it's a good question. So I started it because on Credo, we focus on the buyer side. We focus on the companies that are looking to hire a marketing agency. And I want to do actively more for the agency side, because the more I can teach agencies, I've worked for 2 agencies. I haven't run an agency, but I
Hmm.
was a freelance consultant, worked with a couple hundred agencies over the last 5 years. I know a lot about growing agencies, but it
Sure.
doesn't make sense on the Credo blog to have stuff geared towards agencies. Because then there's just a lot that would have to happen, internal linking and siloing. And, if you're on this, then only recommend this and blah, blah, blah. And it's not that clean between buyers and agencies, like stuff we write about how to do marketing, both agency readers and buyer and people in-house are reading it. And so it's like, what do we link to then? Right? Who is this person?
Mm.
So I was feeling blocked. I felt really blocked creatively in creating content for agencies. And so I was like, what if I just created a lightweight newsletter that I can just write and commit to it? And it was kind of a test. Am I going to enjoy this? Do I have good things to say, etc.? And I've published every Monday for about the last 4 months now. A couple hundred
Hmm.
people on the list. I get great feedback from it. I get people tweeting about it. It's been a long time since I've had people tweeting about stuff that I wrote. And so I'm like unprompted without me really promoting it. And it's just it goes out. Like Monday it went out, and someone tweeted that afternoon that this is awesome. It's made me rethink these things. And if you're an agency, agency owner or consultant or freelancer, you should subscribe. I'm like, oh, I've hit on something here. So it's free. DohertyJF.substack.com. I didn't even get Service Business Academy. That's Substack.com. It was literally a test. It was I'm just going to spin this up, see what happens. And people have enjoyed it. So who knows where it will go? I'll probably do a coaching thing for agencies at some point. I don't know if I'll make the Substack paid. I've actually thought about just launching servicebusinessacademy.com and kind of recreating that same thing on its own website. I don't know what it'll turn into. But it's been a great creative outlet and a great way for me to kind of teach a lot of the things that I've learned over the last few years. Show some frameworks that I think through, my sales process, proposal process, that sort of stuff. And talk to the entrepreneur, agency owner level where they're thinking about how do I hire, how do I scale, what are the things I really need, all the stuff that I've learned as an entrepreneur. It's really entrepreneur to entrepreneur is the kind of level that I think about it on, and focusing on I say service businesses, agencies, but it's not just marketing agencies. It's just as applicable to lawyers and HVAC owners and the guy that owns the company that mows my neighbor's lawn and that kind of thing. It should appeal to them as well.
Yeah, that's interesting. I hadn't thought about, at Credo, you're really trying to attract leads who you can then refer to your agency. So your content's going to be
Right.
built around those leads. And so
You got it.
I hadn't really thought about that different angle. That makes a lot of sense. So
Yeah.
as we draw this conclusion to a close, I have 2 wrap-up questions for you. So first, what's one resource you'd recommend to our listeners, could be a book, newsletter, or blog, just something you find particularly valuable that you think our listeners should check out.
So the most valuable book that I've read, I'm a big reader, that I've read, all business books that I've read recently is, so it's by a guy named Greg Crabtree, Simple Numbers, Straight Talk, Big Profits. If you're doing I would say if you're doing 15K a month or more in revenue, it's really going to resonate. If you're under that, and you want to learn things that are going to come up once you know your business is going to work, I would recommend it. But basically it just talks about like, how do you run a profitable business, right? I talked at the beginning about the spreadsheet that I use. I have it baked into there where it's like, and he basically, the thing is he gives a great model for growth where he's like, if you're bootstrapped, you want to run a profitable business, you should aim for about 15%. If you're under 15%, you should not hire. You need to get your business back above 15% before you can hire somebody else. Don't hire to get more profitable. If you hire, you're reducing your profit margin. If you're above that, then you can hire, right? Or you can invest. You can make investments in ads or what you have, but you can invest. But don't take it below 10% profit, and then you need to get it back above 15 before you make another bet. And that's just been like game changing for me. And my business partner and I actually said like, okay, if we're over 20%, then like say we're 25%, that extra 5%, we're going to take that as distributions because we don't want to starve the business. We want to invest for growth. But above that, like if we run a profitable business, right, and like everything's working great and no one's overworked and all of that, let's take that as distributions as well. So we take, we're basically rewarded for running a profitable business. Yeah. So simple numbers, straight talk, big profits. It was originally written for like software companies. It applies to agencies and service businesses and productized services as well. So I would highly recommend people pick that up. He has a second book. It's like, I don't even have it over here on my bookshelf. But it's called rules for scaling. Here it is. It's called Simple Numbers 2.0, Rules for Smart Scaling, a play-by-play analysis for pure growth. So I would read Simple Numbers, Straight Talk, Big Profits first. I'm about halfway through this one, and it's really good. It's basically all the things that they've learned once they wrote that book, grew their firm quite a bit, and then he's basically going and saying this is what like businesses that really win do and how they run.
Yeah, very cool. Second, where can our listeners go to connect with you or to learn more about Credo or EditorNinja?
Yeah. So best place to connect with me personally is Twitter at DohertyJF, DOHERTYJF. If you're an agency or a service business owner, consultant, etc., subscribe to my Substack that we just mentioned, DohertyJF.substack.com. That goes out every Monday. And then if you want to learn more about Credo, it's getcredo.com. On the buyer side, if you're looking to hire, click the How Credo Works link up in the top. That'll tell you how we work and what we do and who we are. If you're an agency, there's a small link up in the top, Credo for marketing agencies or for agencies, I think is what it says. But go to getcredo.com/pros, PROS, and that'll kind of give you all the info. And then Editor Ninja is editorninja.com.
Perfect. Well, Jon, thank you so much for joining me today on Reverse Engineered.
You bet. Thanks for having me, John. This was fun.
And thank you to our listeners. That's all for today's podcast. You can access the episode show notes at kinsta.com/podcast. That's KINSTA.com/podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe to Reverse Engineered and leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or the platform you're listening on right now. See you next time.